Okay, Lavanya Prasad, please introduce yourself and tell everybody where you are, and please tell us a story.
Thank you. Uh, Good morning, everyone from Bengaluru. We have a very nice morning here. It was raining the entire night yesterday, and I'm just hoping and praying to the internet gods that everything will be all right as I tell you the story today. So it's lovely to see you all here, and what lovely stories I got to hear this morning. So I'm glad that I'm going to be sharing one story that touched my heart too. Well, we are talking about healing and how stories can heal. And this is something that I've been telling for a while. And this forum is definitely a great forum to share that, is what I thought. So, without any further ado, I'm going to get into the story and then probably have discussions later. The king, you know, he was feeling all energetic and pumped up because it was his day, the day where he used to go hunting, sitting on his horse with his bow and arrows and all the other things that they might have to. It is a hunting expedition that the king takes almost once in a month with his ministers and soldiers accompanying him. They just travel deep into the jungle to just hunt, find game, and make merry. It was one thing that the king loved to do all the time. And that day was not any different. He woke up really early and off in his horse he was into the forest. And there, he wanted to show his skills, everything that he had learned over the years. And he went right, left, and center, and wherever he could find, and he chased every game, especially the deer, which always liked to give him a miss. But this time, he was very, very alert, and he started chasing every single game a boar, a deer, and sometimes even a tiger. Well, when it was midday, the king, he just looked back, and on his horse right behind him, he had all the game put the deer, the wild boar, what not. But then, when he was feeling a little tired and he wanted to rest for a while, he looked back. It was only then he realized that he had lost his way. Where were the ministers and the soldiers who accompanied him carrying pots of water and food and everything else? And where did he go? But then the king decided to rest. And so he just went and looked in search of a nice shady place. A tree right in front of him welcomed him with open arms. He went there. He tied his horse by the tree. He took out all the thing that he had killed since morning. Very happy, he just lay right in front of him and he sat there with his back resting on the tree, looking at everything in wonder. Now, like Ramya told us about the tree today morning, probably the tree always gives us wisdom when we lean on it. And as the king was leaning against the tree and looking at all the things that he had killed, something came inside his mind. He looked at that and he started to tell out loud whatever was there in his mind. வாழும் உயிரை வாங்கிடல் யாவருக்கும் சாத்தியமே ஆனால் வீழும் உயிரை மீட்டுதல் வேந்தன் நினைத்தாலும் ஆகாதுவே. This is a Tamil verse which translates to how easy it is for anyone to take a life from something. But even if a king thinks he cannot put back life into something that he has taken the life away from. God. He sat there looking at what he had done, the crime that he had committed, and his heart was bleeding. He was sitting there not knowing what to do, deep in depression. And that was when he heard the horses marching, the foot soldiers marching towards him. They were looking for their lost king. And when the minister spotted the king, he was a big sigh of relief. He looked at the king and he said, "What happened, my lord? Are you okay? Is everything fine? Why is this? Look at the beautiful animals that you have killed." And the king didn't want to listen to any of this. He just turned his face away, filled with grief. He looked at the minister and he said, "What have I done? What have I done, minister? How will I even face my people anymore?" The minister didn't know what to do. Why? What happened? My dear Lord, tell me what happened. How easy it is for me to take away the life, but how will I put back the life into this deer or this wild boar? Who gave me the right to take the life away from anything like this? What have I done? How can I even be a king anymore? Do I even do you think that I have a chance to be a king, to be an example to my people? The minister understood what the king was going through. Well, sometimes everyone gets such realizations in our life. And the minister didn't want to stop whatever the king was going through. He looked at him and he smiled. He said, "Okay, tell me, what do you think you should be doing? I can't have this inside me, my minister. I will have to tell this out. I will have to tell my people how terrible I have been. I will have to tell them the truth, but will they be able to take it? Will they be able to take the truth? Will they be able to take the fact that the king is a person who's unfit to be a king, unfit to be an example to all these people?" The minister laughed. I should tell you something. The kings those days were very clever in choosing their ministers. They always chose the ministers who could advise them appropriately. And this minister was no different. He looked at him and he said, "Well, if you think that the truth, when naked, will not be welcomed, why don't you clothe it with something that people will appreciate? What do I do?" Now, the minister knows something. The king loved to sing. And so he looked at the king and he said, "பாவத்தை கழுவ பாட்டு பாடி விடுங்கள். To wash away your sins, why don't you sing?" Sing? Yes, tell them the truth as you sing, like a story. Just do that, king, and you will see what will happen. And now the king was very excited. Well, he loved to sing and he wanted to tell the truth, but how? Now, the kings always have doubts creeping in their minds, and it is the minister who always solves them too. He looked at the minister and he said, "Yes, I'm ready to, but I'm sitting in a forest. How will I sing? I don't have any musical instruments right next to me." And the minister looked at the king and said, "பாட்டு பாடுறதுன்னு ஆயாச்சு. காடா இருந்தா என்ன? வீடா இருந்தா என்ன? You have decided to sing. What if it is your house or it is the forest? Come on, sing off to glory." And then he quickly took the bow that the king was carrying. He gave the bow to the king and he said, "Keep this your instrument. Get 2 sticks," he ordered the soldiers, and they got 2 sticks. And he looked at the king and said, "Now set a rhythm by hitting the bow with the stick and start singing, my lord." "Huh, that's a good idea," he said. Now, I should tell you, the bow had little jingles in its end. And so, as the king took the stick and he started hitting the strings of the bow, it made beautiful sounds like this. But there was again a problem. The king looked at the minister and he said, "I would like to sing by giving the rhythm, with the bow and the stick, but the bow is not standing. What do I do?" The minister smiled. "Well, it is just in your mind, my dear king. I will make an effort. I will give you a solution for that too." He looked at the soldiers and he said, "Get me the pot. Get me the buttermilk pot. Empty the buttermilk pot and get me that." And they brought this pot and said, use this. The king looked at the minister and said, this musical instrument is gatam, a pot which is placed ulta and played to get the rhythm. How can I use gatam? Will people not be offended? Gatam players not be offended? And then the minister looked at the king and he said, Kamati vecha gatam, nimiti vecha kodam. If it is ulta, it is gatam. If you're keeping it atop, upright, it is just a pot. Keep it upright. Let it be the balance. And so he kept the pot, and on the pot, the bow was placed. And then he took the sticks and he said, now you make the rhythm and you start singing. And the king saw that the bow was beautifully balanced and he made the rhythm. But again, but minister, I have the instrument ready. I'm even having the instrument balanced properly. But how do I start? What do I start? What do I sing? Please tell me, what do I sing? The minister looked at the king. He knew that the king was ready. All he needed was a little assurance. And he looked at the king and he said, let me tell you something. Whenever, whenever you are trying to say something through an art form, all you will have to do is immerse yourself completely in the art. Let the art take over you. Give yourself completely to the art, and the art will do whatever it has to. Just believe in that. Give yourself, and you start like that. That will be your first line as you sing, my lord, he said. தன்னையே தந்து பாடுங்கள். Give yourself to the art and you start singing. And that is how the king started the first line of his song like this. தந்தனத்தோம் என்று சொல்லியே வில்லினில் பாட அம்மா வில்லினில் பாட வந்தருவாள் கலை மகளே. Tandanatom is how the king started. And do you know, when you break this word Tandanatom, it breaks into Tannai Tandom, which means one gives oneself to the art. And that beautiful thing is how this beautiful art form came into being. But there was another problem. Now the king was happy, but what about the soldiers who were standing there and looking at the king? They didn't know what to do. They looked at the minister. Now, what do we do? The king is singing. Should we say something? And the minister called out to the soldiers and said, why don't you reassure him that you are hearing him? Every time he's singing, just say, Ama, aha, oho, yes, that is how it is. And that is how, when the king started to sing his truth, clad in the story and a song, people who were listening to him reassured him by saying, Ama, aha, oho. How happy the king felt and how light at heart he felt. How beautiful this was. Something that he discovered as he was sitting inside the forest, not knowing what to do as he was going into deep depression. That, my dear people, is how the beautiful storytelling, traditional storytelling art form of India called Villapattu came into being. Now, Villapattu means, Villa in Tamil means bow, and Pattu is song. Now, this, I will have to tell you something. This story is something that I heard in one of the mastros of Villapattu uh, in his recitals. His name is Ayya Suppu Arumugam. And he's one person who has been doing Villapattu for so many years now. And I happened to um, listen to the story of how Villapattu came into being. And to me, this story has got layers and layers and layers of reflection. I'm not going to tell you what I reflected upon this story, but I would like to leave it to you all and let me know what came to you through this story. It's a very simple story, but yet a profound one at that. And I had asked Eric to request me to share a picture. Is that okay, Eric? Can I do that now?
Yes, of course.
Yes. So I'm just going to share screen. So this is the Villupattu. If you can see, there is this bow, and upon which the bow is placed in balance. The bow is balanced using a pot, and the artist has a stick in his hand with which he, hits the string of the bow, and he sings, brings beat, and that's how he sings. So this is Ayya Subbu Arumugam, the maestro in Villupattu, and his family. This was when he was young, and this is how they are now. The family takes it forward, and Villiput is an amazing traditional art form of storytelling in India. Every art form, for that matter, has its own healing properties. Don't you think so? So, thank you so much, Eric, for bringing this. And here at this point, I should tell that Dr. Eric Miller has interacted with Ayya Subbu Arumuham, and he's done a very intensive research and also done a paper, I believe, in Villipata. I happened to talk to him a few months back on the same, and we had a beautiful discussion on the same. So I'm very glad and happy that I could bring this story here in Chennai Storytelling Festival. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, I also heard that story from Subu Arumugam. He was very proud of the king, that the king, gave up violence and turned a weapon into a musical instrument.
Yeah.
That story is in the tradition of the South Indian stories about kings who have a conscience, like the Pandyan king with Kannagi, like the king who punished his own son for running over a young cow. Uh, there's many variations on the story of a king who feels guilt and
That's right.
changes his ways. That's one of the reasons I moved to Tamil Nadu, because I liked. And people say it's old hat, but it's still in the air. Authority figures still know these stories.
That's right. So I would like to hear from you all if you have anything. What came up to you as you listened to this story?
Thank you so much, Lavanya. I really have goosebumps after listening to that whole story and how you presented it. And that Tanne Tandom, I think that's just going to play on my mind the whole day. Giving up yourself, just beautiful. Thank you so much for that gift, Lavanya. Thanks.
Well narrated, Lavanya Prasad, and,
Thank
uh,
you so much.
and I like the way you told the story. And Subbu Arvam, when you started the story about under the tree, and I could understand that you are coming to Subbu Arvam. Then I paid. Already I was listening. Now then I started listening more attentively, and because as a boy I used to go and attend Subbu Armugam's Villupattu in Tirunelveli. He used to
Yes.
come, there used to be festival all around. Every street there is one local deity, and there will be throughout the night there will be storytelling. The Villupattu of Subbu Armum I never miss. And Tandanattam என்று சொல்லியே வில்லில் பாட. You should have sung that song because
I can
otherwise,
do that now.
huh?
I'll do that now.
That really that will set the tune for this
That's
story.
right.
At least, and now if you know, if anybody knows better, I think Ambujavalli can sing better if Eric permits, or I don't know about Lavanya. See, தந்தனத்தம் என்று சொல்லியே வெள்ளில் பாட ஆமா வெள்ளினில் பாட ஆமா. This ama means there is an involvement. You see, now that Lavanya is telling story, suppose everyone is listening, and if it is she is also telling in a way which everyone can listen. Really, it's a great enthusiasm to her to tell the story, as well as It is great. See, Villupattu is the involvement of everyone, everyone, not only the people on the stage, but also the people who are in the audience. Great, thank you.
That actually, to add to that, actually, if, maybe you didn't know, Lavanya is a wonderful singer and a great dancer. She's like a pro in both. I always admire the research she puts into each and every story. Like, I don't know how many books she reads or how many websites she watches. I mean, each and every story comes with, big research. um, I mean, I really admire that. And yeah, of course, as like Aramya said, that Tannai Tandom is like one punch, which is going to be with all of us who love the art. And one thing I want to know, Lavanya, I mean, I'm generally, I always get curious about what makes a person choose a particular story for a particular event. Like how I asked Shan sir, what made you choose this story for this particular festival?
So this story, Ambuja, this came to me very long time ago. I think sometime last year. So I was doing some research on Villapatu, and that is when I even connected with Dr. Eric Miller, and I had a discussion with him. So when I was traditional art forms of India, I have a very particular what do I say, attraction to all the traditional storytelling art forms of India. So Villapatu was one thing that I wanted to learn, and I'm looking at learning. I don't know when, but sometime in my life, I hope, yeah, I will be able to. So when I was, generally listening to this, I saw, I wanted to know how it came into being, and incidentally, I happened to listen to this story by Subbu Arumugam himself. So now I know it's a valid story because it is told by a person who's been practicing the art for years and years and years. So, and what connected me to the story is that the Tannai Tandom word. It's absolutely brilliant because when an artist completely gives oneself to the art gives you in manifolds. So that was what attracted me also to the story. And I thought when this healing came up, I thought, okay, why not start this? I mean, we're all storytellers here, and to just bring it out that there is a traditional storytelling art form in India which just relies on the properties of healing and how it came into being. It's a very simple story, but like I said, the layers in which it has is amazing. And that is why I thought I should share this with you all today.
Thank you.
Hi,
For,
Lavanya.
I
Love the love the story, and like you said, there are multiple layers of reflection to this. It's so beautiful. I think for me, uh, again, you also mentioned about the tree in Ramya's story. So I'm going to stay with the tree for today, and I just want to stay there and see what the tree has to offer for me. So very beautifully told, Lavanya, and I'm feeling so full. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramya.
for those of you who are not in India, um, should clarify, Vilupatu, it's a kind of a group form of storytelling because there's a primary storyteller, and then, as Lavanya said, there's a secondary speaker who is saying, is it true? Is it so? Is it true? And sometimes they do dialogue together, and then they'll go for maybe 10 minutes, and then there'll be a 10 minutes of singing. Often somebody else in the group will do the singing. I think one of Subu's daughters does the singing. So it alternates between talking and singing. And there's a long history of Vilupatu being used for political purposes and public health messages, going back to the 1930s. In general, in Tamil Nadu, the folk arts were used politically, especially in the campaign to expel the British, and also to promote Dravidian culture, to promote local culture. So Vilupatu was used, but especially Subu told me his guru was NSK, which was surprising to me. NSK, NS Krishnan, is known as a movie actor in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, very much a radical, a revolutionary, a total atheist. And he is the one who took Vilupatu and used it for secular messages. He told the story of the Buddha. He told different political struggles. He visited the Soviet Union. So Subbu is more traditional in a sense. He's a little bit more religious and doesn't focus so much on these secular political things. But I just want everyone to know that Vilupatu and Tamil Nadu in general has this wonderful history of using folk arts for various things. I've participated in workshops with Subbu organized by NGOs because they wanted to train their people to do Vilupatu in villages to convince the people to dig wells or build roads or whatever the NGO was trying to do. They hired Subbu to train their people to speak in a language of the arts that the people would understand and respect.
Thank you, Eric and Lavanya. Thank you so much for bringing that beautiful story about Vilupatu. I just admire, and I have seen Subbu Arumugam himself performing, but today I know the background and it means so much to me. And another thing you must give it to Subbu Arumugam is that he has passed it on to the next generation, because his son, Kalaimani, I think, he is also into performing Vilupatu. And I had the good fortune of watching him perform at Uru Rolkat Kupam a year ago, I suppose. It was just amazing in the open art, on the stage, watching the next generation, because it's very, very important. Like we storytellers, and you especially, try to bring in this art to more and more people. The artists themselves also pass on the art through their own, either Sishya Parampara, be it their own children or their disciples. So thank you for this beautiful, and I was singing that song in my heart so much. I wish we have you sing that sometime, and maybe you can sign off with a line of that song. You have a fanfare here, fan following, asking you to sing. So just with a line, we can sign off that.
Yes, but before you do, I just want to say that I did spend a lot of time with Subbu, and if my language skills had been better, I would have been happy to perform Vilupatu. But I just, it wasn't in me to be that good in Tamil language. But okay, go ahead.
Can I
Thank
add
you.
something?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like, I could see as and when you started telling about the fort, I was visualizing Subbu and his team performing in front of my eyes. That was the only thing that came up to me. And slowly you unfolded, one by one, like the petals of the, lotus flower. And then you went into the soul and you told about the Dandanathom. It was really a wonderful narration. And I was just thinking, oh my God, this is the platform where we have to show his face and his team, and you popped up with a photograph also. So it was really amazing to listen to you. And we did one in English and Tamil, both of it. So because generation today, they don't know, and our regional languages stops us from listening to only one language. So we try to make songs translate it in English and try to give it to the children. So that is how we worked, and probably, maybe this may open up a different kind of perspective towards that. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, my pleasure.
Two things that Subbu said come to mind that he said to me. We were discussing different types of stories where there's bad behavior, and then that character is punished. And he said he prefers stories where somehow the bad behavior is avoided, prevented, that the character before he or she does the bad behavior is stopped and corrected before the damage is done. That he said that's his favorite type of story. And he also said an artist must never get involved with politics.
I wanted to add that of course, I was like longing that Trump would learn this art form. And he'd be singing for years and years and years and years and years. But just the idea that there's redemption, that you can do something wrong and then come to an awareness about it and then be afraid to share about that. But if you do it with something that you love and you do it with earnestness and you do it with an art form, there can be an acceptance of your culpability, your crime. You can be redeemed. And I find that a really interesting theme to be thinking about, along with all these other comments of the traditional arts and how they're used in both political and non-political ways, etc. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I like you all asked, I'm just going to I'm going to tell you how this usually is. They start the whole session with the song. So one thing is, like everybody said, this art form was mainly practiced. People started practicing this art form because they were able to reach out to the masses. The people who did not understand things otherwise was told very easily using stories and songs, and that is why this whole thing came up. So
I'm sorry to interrupt. Again, I want to say for people outside India, this is a traditional art form, which is also a devotional and ritual form, in that traditionally it's done at temples during the festival for a god or goddess, and the act of narration is also an act of invocation, in that that divine figure is called to come and inhabit the body, usually not of the storyteller, but of other people there. So people, in English, the word is being possessed, but that's a traditional Vilupatu culminates in that kind of spirit possession by people in the temple. So it was a very radical move of N.S. Krishnan to take that out of the religious context and turn it into a social justice method. I'm sorry, Lavanya, go ahead.
That's okay. That's okay. சந்தனத்தோம் என்று சொல்லியே வில்லினில் பாட அம்மா வில்லினில் பாட வந்தருவாள் கலை மகளே தானதந்தோம் என்று சொல்லி மேளங்களும் தாளத்துடன் தானதந்தோம் என்று சொல்லி மேளங்களும் தாளத்துடன் ஆன பொம்மை ஊரும் இடத்தில் தொந்திமியோடு ஆமா தொந்திமியோடு அத்தனையும் மேளத்தோடு வில்லுப்பாட்டு வந்த கதை இங்கு நானே சொல்ல வந்தேன் ஆஹா ஆஹா வில்லுப்பாட்டு வந்த கதை இங்கு நானே சொல்ல வந்தேன் CSF மக்களுடனே ஆமா நானே வந்தேனே கதை சொல்லவே. That's how they usually start the performance. Thank you so much for listening to me today.
Thank you. And I'm delighted mention of Vilupatu found its way into the Chennai Storytelling Festival. Maybe one of these years we'll have Subbu and family be with us. Yeah.
Lovely.
Great. Okay.